Hello and welcome everybody to Phase 4 Attacks and Combos. By the end of Phase 4, our player character will be able to attack with a 3-hit combo and a jump kick. Now after we've got those attacks coded in, we'll be ready for Phase 5, where we'll be adding in some enemies to try out these attacks on. But the first part is to get the combo working of our attacks. So let's go look at our sprite sheet and look at what we're going to be doing for these ones here. We've done our idle animation and our walking animation, so let's just focus this on here, which is our attacks. We'll just hide the feet. There we go. You can see the tips of the feet. That's okay. So it's going to work by, if you press the attack button once when you're idling or walking, then it's going to do the first attack. Now the first attack attacks and recovers. But if the player presses the attack button again while it's doing the first attack, and let's say by this frame here, we want it to jump on to the next attack instead of recovering, which would then jump down to attack number 2, which would do another punch, and if the player doesn't press attack again, then it'll recover and reset itself back to idle. However, if they do press the attack button by, let's say, this one or that one, it's going to jump over to the third attack, and in the third attack, all it does is animates itself, and it spins the kick, and wham! That foot goes out and hits someone down in the face, and they fall over flat bang on the floor. And then after that hits, it's got to do a lot of recovery. So that's what we're going to be coding in this one here, guys. So to make this happen, the first thing we're going to need to do in our player class is set ourselves up with some extra enums for player state. So enum player state. We're going to add in attack 1, attack 2, and attack 3. And finish that one there off. We're going to need to add in some extra draw widths into our draw area constants. So const int draw width attack 1, which is going to be equal to 146 pixels. Our const int draw width attack 2 is also equal to 146. Why have two of them? Well, in case you suddenly had to change the animation or the sprite sheet, it's say one of them, the punch had to change a little bit and it needed to have the extra bit of a pixel on one of the frames, well then you can just come in here and change it instead of having to set up a new attack and recoding everything else. You just change where you need it. Const int draw width attack 3 for the spinning heel kick, which is going to be equal to 201. Okay, now what we need to do is look at some extra static floats. What these are for is keeping track of which frame we're on or where we're up to in terms of the attack. So we know we want it to reset to the idle graphic when it reaches here, but if they press attack before it reaches such another frame, let's say this one here, we need it to, that one there has to be timed so we know where we're up to. Instead of looking for frames, we're going to do that here, which is going to be public static. It doesn't even need to be public, let's just set it to static. Static float accept attack 2 time. And why are we doing it as a static instead of a constant? Well, constants need to have their values set into them. They need to have a value written in. Whereas a static, we can say, what do we want it to be equal to? Actor dot frame rate times how many frames, which in our case is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we do in the 5th frame, whoops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we zero base that, then we're going to just be pulling it back a frame, because from here to here is going to take up 1 full frame rate. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There. If the player presses it before they reach the 5th frame there, then it's going to know to jump over to the next animation. So let's put that as attack times 6, and then we'll just comment on the end of it and say 6 full frames. 6 frames. Then we'll need to add in a static float accept attack 3 time is equal to the same thing, actor dot frame rate times how many do you want it to be? I think this one here is also going to be 6. Well, no, I don't think it will be. We're going to set it to 6 frames. Now, why am I calling it accept attack time 2 if we're on the first one here? Well, this is the way that my mind wants to think about it. It's going to be how much time is it that we can accept to go onto the second attack. So if you're on the first attack, then you've got 6 frames to decide to go onto the second attack, and on the second one it's called accept attack time 3 because you've got that much time to decide to go onto the third attack. And that's how I think about it. You could call it accept attack time 1, accept attack time 2 if you wanted to. It's up to you, whichever way floats your boat. And now for all of these we're going to need to add in some way of keeping track of where we're up to. So we'll put in float state time, and we'll need to know if we're going to go on to the next animation or not, or the next attack, which is a bool, which we're going to call make combo. There we go, that's all of that one there taken care of. So now we're going to look at what we need to do with our update call, which is public void update game time. And what do we do in here? Well, we're inside our switch for state. Oops. State. Nice save. There we go. If we are inside the switch for state, what do we want to do with it? Let's keep the update written in there as well. Okay, it goes out of frame. Yeah, that's kind of good enough, isn't it? Yep, good. Okay, if we are inside the case for player state.idle and walking, then what do we need to do? Well, we need to check for, just like we did for the jump, we check if the player has pressed the jump button. We're going to check for the attack button. So we'll say if attack button pressed, okay, on the keyboard we're going to make that be the A key, and on the gamepad it's going to be the X button. Rightio, so if the attack button was pressed, what do we need to do? We need to set up the animation, which means set up the frame X, the frame Y, the origin, the draw width, the draw height, set the draw area, and we'll just call that one setup animation. And then we need to do a few extra things here. We need to set up the attack, or set up the next attack. Set up next attack. Set up next attack input. Sounds pretty good. Okay, and what do I mean by that? Well, in here we need to set state time equal to 0. We need to make our combo false. Combo equal to false. We need to set our state as well. Make sure we're pointing now at attack 1. And inside setup animation, we'll be calling set draw area. So over here I'm just going to put set draw area. Why is that important? Because of what we need to do on our next line here, which is return. Because if we don't return before we jump out of this if statement, then that means we're still inside our case, our player state idle and walking case, which means what's going to be called next is move. Didn't need another one of those. And if we reach move, we've already set the draw area back here. So if we reach move here, it's going to go, okay, well I'm going to move on to the move method is the word I was going for, the move method, and I'm going to be deciding to draw something else. It might actually overwrite the draw area. So we don't want that happening. So we can just return that, skip that out of there. That finishes off the update for the case idle and walking. Have I got space enough? No, I don't know. Let's go back up the top here. And we haven't finished off with our update yet, so we'll just write here update cont. Public void update GT continued. Rightio, what are we going to be doing next? Well, we're going to look at what we're doing for our attack 1 and our attack 2 and our attack 3 player states. So we'll put in here case player state dot attack 1 and whoops, semicolon, that's all we want. Rightio, what are we going to do here? Well, we need to update our state time. Which is state time plus equal to game time dot elapsed game time dot total seconds after you've cast it over to a float, and then we check if, we'll write this one here out, state time is less than our accept attack 2 time, now, if we are less than accept attack 2 time, then that means we should be checking for input to see if our player has pressed the next attack button. So we'll put here, if they've done that, how we write that, we'll put if attack button pressed, and if it is, what do? We set make combo equal to true. That's all we need to do there. That finishes off that if statement, and we put in an else. And now else is, well, if we are less than if our state time is therefore bigger, is more than our accept attack time 2, that means we're not going to be checking for input anymore. So we should be checking if combo was equal to true. So we check else, if make combo, and if we are equal to combo, that means we should be moving on now to the next animation. So we'll put in set draw area. Set draw area for attack 2. And we also need to set the attack input times. Just like we did in the idle and walking state when we pressed attack. So that if make combos there done, and we better inside our set draw area, we'll be calling set draw area. So if we've done this and we're making a combo, we'd better be sure to return and break out of all that. Because if we don't, then the next thing we've done, if we've just set our draw area in make combo, is we set it to, why does that keep dumping? Go away. It sets to animate attack 1, which takes in game time. And that wouldn't be very good because then we've set our draw area, but then we'd be going back to animate attack 1, which could be the wrong area altogether. There we go, we should put break. Okay, now that was our player state accept attack 1, or just player state dot attack 1, so we'll do the same thing in here for case player state dot attack 2. Now this is all essentially exactly the same as attack 1, so the only thing we're going to change here is what we put in for if make combo. So I'm just going to pretend we've written all of this here, there, with a simple little blah 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 there, and here. So pretend we've got all that top bit done, and we've just come up to the spot where we said if make combo. Because all we need to do in here is set the draw area for the next animation. Attack 3. That's all we need to do. We don't need to set next attack input times, because if we're on attack 3, there is no extra attack after that. We've done the punch, we've done the second punch, we've done the spinning heel kick to the face, and then we've stopped. We've reset the idle graphic. There is no extra attack after that combo. So we don't need to do anything else. We'll close U, and then we'll call animate attack 2. That's the end game time, and of course in here we'll be returning. And then we'll put break. There. That finishes off case for player state.attack 2. Now we'll look at case player state.attack 3. Player state.attack 3, which all we call is animate attack 3. Passing in game time, and that's all it needs to do. Break U. Done. I'm starting to write up a slant. Probably doing that all the time anyway, but I'm only just noticing it. And that will finish off what we're adding in for our update call, so we'll close off the switch and close off the update. That's a bit too many of a blah, blah, blah there, so we'll just close it. Actually draw one properly for once. Hey. And we don't have any space to write in what we're going to be doing for our animations, so we'll close U and set up a new one and call inside our animations region. We'll be putting private void animate attack 1. And it wants game time. Okay, so animating it is essentially the same as what you've done for the idle animation. It just doesn't loop itself. So we don't need to write out all the lines, we'll just put animate it. Not really much more to it than that. Private void animate attack 2. Gives us game time. Then we do the same thing, we animate it and animate it. Done. But now what about our animation for attack 3? This one's going to be slightly different, so we will write this one out. Private void animate attack 3, taking the in-game time. This one we'll write out, so we update current frame time. Frame time. And then we check if we've gone over our frame limit, so if current frame time is bigger than or equal to actor.framerate, frame rate, then we'll reset current frame time to 0, current frame time equal to 0, and then we do frame x++. Make sure we move on to the next animation, and we check, do we need to move on to the next line? So have we run out all the spaces for our animation of x frames? So we put if frame x is bigger than, how many do we have inside here? Let's go up, and we've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Frame x is bigger than 6. What do we make frame x back to 0? Frame y plus plus. Okay, pretty standard stuff. We've done that one in the animate walking. But what we haven't done there, and we better call set draw area first. Set draw area. What we haven't done is checked, have we finished the animation? And what do we do? Because if you look at this one, it doesn't finish at the end of it. It doesn't loop like we did with the walking. It suddenly reaches this frame here and stops, which is 0, 1, 2 in, and 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 frames from the bottom, so Y7 and X2. Suddenly it just finishes there, so we need to check for that as well. We'll say if we've suddenly set ourselves to frame X equal to 7, and sorry I can't write those little ampersands too well, so I do it like that. Our frame X equal to 2, I've written frame X here as well, sorry, that's supposed to be a frame Y. Then we know to call reset autographic. and return. We don't even need to call return because we're not going to be changing our draw area again. So close you, and finish off the entirety of the animate method. But this one here, if we set it to frame x equal to 2 when we check for our checking of the method, or finishing off the method, look where that's going to put us. Here, 0, 1, 2. That means we're going to finish on this frame, but we needed to finish on this one. So we better make sure we're checking when x is equal to 3. So we'll change this guy here to a 3. Close that. And that will be everything that we need to add in for our attack combos for the moment. So let's go into Visual Studio, guys, and code it out. See you there. Bye-bye.